Today in the AWS Developers Podcast, we are talking about free data transfer out. What it means, when you can apply, why you should apply if you want to. We'll explain all that in a second. Stay tuned. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on this planet. Thank you for listening to the AWS Developers Podcast. Every Friday in your podcast application, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Deezer, Spotify, many others as well, on the web as well, on SoundCloud. Leave us your feedback, send us your comments, and leave a thumbs up or a small star. That's our reward for this series of podcasts. Today we are going to talk about networking and how AWS is charging you for bandwidth, incoming bandwidth, outgoing bandwidth, and a couple of details around that, especially that a few months ago we announced a free data transfer out, and we want to explain exactly what does it mean and how you can apply. And for that I asked Camden to join this podcast this week. So Camden Forgy, your senior product manager in the networking team. Networking team is a bit vague, it's not super precise, so exactly what team are you in?
Yeah, thank you for having me today, Seb. Yep. So I'm from the Global Connectivity and Network Availability Organization within AWS. We're, in kind of short, responsible for the global network infrastructure. So we design, build, operate, maintain, and monitor our global network infrastructure to ensure that we can connect across our various locations across the world, and we can facilitate transfers for our customers.
So your team is building that giant global network that interconnects all the 33, I think my count is correct right now, 33 different regions that we have. And every time we build a new region, it's up to your responsibility to bring connectivity to that region.
Correct, yeah. So we bring connectivity to the region. We kind of deploy the metro fiber that connects the availability zones within the region, and we have the long haul dark fiber that connects those individual regions. I'd add as well that we have over 600 points of presence across the globe as well that even extend beyond our regions, and we interconnect those as well to our global network infrastructure.
So yes, I said region just to simplify, but there is more than 600 CloudFront point of presence. And then we have other type of infrastructure as well, beside the regions and CloudFront.
Yeah, correct. We have local zones, wavelength zones, any sort of edge site that's outside of the region, we interconnect that to our global network infrastructure as well.
So your team is managing thousands of kilometers of miles of fiber, including under the sea and across continents.
Yeah. Some random facts. I think we have enough metro fiber deployed within our regions to connect our availability zones to extend to the moon, I think, back and forth 8 times. So it's a significant amount of infrastructure that we have, and our team does an incredible job to kind of maintain it, ensure that it's available for our customers when they need it.
That's probably one of the largest private network on the planet, alongside with the other mega cloud provider like Google and Microsoft. Probably we are the top 3-5 companies that can build this type of infrastructure. This is quite fascinating. We charge the bandwidth when customers are using the bandwidth from AWS. There is a price for that. What are the general high-level rules to understand in which framework are we talking about when talking about bandwidth?
So I'm going to focus on just data transfers from our regions and local zones and wavelength zones. Transfers both out of AWS as well as between our regions. There are other like premium services, data transfer services that use the same network infrastructure but provide kind of a premium service, such as you had mentioned earlier, CloudFront. We also have Direct Connect, which provides connectivity to on-prem resources. But in general, all customers benefit from our global network infrastructure via what we call data transfer out to the internet. So that's any byte that is originating within an AWS region, local zone, or wavelength zone, and is being transferred to a destination outside of our network, as well as inter-region transfers. So we facilitate transfers between our locations globally, and we can, due to kind of our interconnectivity and our proprietary network, we're able to carry those bytes on our network from one destination to another destination on point B, and it provides a lot of security, availability reassurance to our customers, as well as performance. Like not having all of those additional hops that you may experience if you were traversing the general internet is a performance benefit to our customers. We're and are happy to kind of provide that value to our customers. And the way that we charge for it is through those data transfer service offerings that I mentioned earlier. So we charge on a per gigabyte basis for data transfer out to the internet. We also charge on a per gigabyte basis for any transfers between our regions and locations globally.
So it's not the same price as going out from one region to the internet or going out from one region to another region?
So there is a diversity in that pricing. So we have different rates for transfers that are going out to the internet as opposed to transfers that are going from region to region. So it's all available on the various pricing pages.
Yes, we are not going to enter into the details because it changes from one region to another region depending on the cost that we have as well. But that's a big change because I started at AWS like more than 10 years ago, and I was delivering training, and we explained at the time, 10 years ago, that the inter-region traffic was flowing through the internet, which was probably true at that time. It's not anymore. Now we have our private network, entirely managed network in between regions globally.
Correct. Yeah, we call it our global network backbone. So it's the interconnectivity between our regions that we own the spans between those regions that connect them, so that we can kind of carry that byte on our own network across.
And I have sometimes difficult conversation with customer talking about what we call DTO in our jargon. So it means data transfer out. It means the bits and bytes that are leaving your infrastructure inside an AWS region towards the internet. I have hard conversation with two types of customer. The first type of customer are the ones that are doing a lot of streaming as part of their business. I talk with startups that are streaming sport event, for example, and these typically they go through CloudFront, which has a different pricing model. So that's a way for them to manage the cost of the outgoing bandwidth. But then there is like the large enterprise that say, okay, I'm going into AWS, but what if I need to exit AWS one day? We don't know why. It's part of my list of risk that I must address as part of my project management. If I need to quit AWS, I need to migrate all my data outside of AWS, and that will cost me a lot. And sometimes it was perceived as a way for us to keep customer in and to force them to continue to use AWS. And that's the problem we wanted to solve with what we are going to talk about in this episode, the free DTO.
Yes. So in March of 2024, we announced our free data transfer to move off of AWS initiative, and it is to address those concerns that you just outlined, Seb. That we don't want customers to perceive AWS data transfer services as a barrier to choosing the cloud services that they desire. We believe that, and I know you've talked about this a lot on this podcast, but we believe we deliver the best in class cloud services, ranging from our compute and storage services to our data transfer services. But we understand that customers may choose to kind of try other services and other cloud providers, and we don't want to discourage that if that's what the customer is choosing to do. So we're offering free data transfer out to the internet, so free data transfer to whatever destination the customer chooses to move their workloads off of AWS.
So we want the freedom to choose. If you as a customer, you think that your specific workload would be better on premises or on another cloud provider, you don't have to pay for the outgoing cost of migrating the data to that new home for your application, for your workloads. So that's important. It's migrating data in the case of moving out of AWS. What are the use case we are covering with that new offering?
So it's customers that want to, I think kind of simply, they just want to move their data for whatever reason to another cloud provider. That could be they're wanting to try the services that other cloud provider offers. but it really is for customers that want to move, right? We aren't necessarily supporting, I guess, kind of regular production workloads, or what I call multi-cloud workloads, supported as a part of FreeDTO. This is really more of a program to assist customers in changing providers rather than supporting kind of multi-cloud or best-in-class service type of customers trying to use multiple clouds.
So typical workloads like storing my backup somewhere else or disaster recovery, it's not covered by this offering. It's really the application that I want to migrate once and for all out of AWS. I received a lot of questions after we published the blog post announcing this, and many customers ask me, what is the boundary? Should I quit AWS at all, or is it per application?
Yeah, so the way that we're evaluating requests from customers is on an account by account basis. So, this, I guess, applies to customers that maybe have multiple accounts that they may run different workloads within those accounts. If a customer wants to migrate the data from a single account within their portfolio, we're willing to consider, that migration of that single account, that single workload. Where it is a little more hard for us to discern what actually is a migration and what is not is when a customer wants to move a single workload within an account, but not move all of their data. That is where it's a little more difficult for us to understand, what the customer is trying to accomplish, if they're actually truly moving off of AWS. So we recommend the customers, if that's your use case, please still reach out to us. We'll consider your case. We can discuss, but it's kind of in a gray area or not necessarily kind of covered under kind of the current structure for the FreeDTO to move off of AWS.
So the normal use case we cover, it's migrating an entire AWS account and everything within that account. But if the customer has multiple AWS accounts, which is super frequent for enterprise and large enterprise, they have an AWS organization with different accounts like development, test, and prod, and per application or per business unit, they can just decide to migrate all the data from one or two or three different accounts, like one application basically, and keep the rest on AWS. Of course, they are welcome to stay on AWS for the rest.
Yeah, correct. And with that, they can maintain any existing agreements that they have with AWS with regards to those accounts, any kind of commitments or any other sort of arrangements that they have with AWS. Those will kind of continue to exist with kind of the accounts that they continue
like
to use. Like
multi-year commitment on service usage,
yes.
or reserve instance, for example, for EC2 or other type of agreement. How can a customer can apply? He's saying there is a button in the console to say, I quit.
No. So if a customer has an account manager or some sort of representative that they work with at AWS, we recommend that they reach out to them first, just to inform them of their intent and discuss, what they're trying to accomplish. How we've been processing requests is through case management. So I would suggest you reach out to go into the console, open a case with our customer support organization. They will evaluate your request. They'll also send an intake form to gather more information about what you're trying to do, what data you're migrating, and then we'll evaluate it internally and get back to you with either additional questions or with a response to support your move case.
That's a nice occasion for the account team as well to link back to the customer, start a conversation, and maybe try to better understand the reason why. What about the long tail of a smaller customer that don't have a specific account manager, or they don't know them, or they just have, maybe they don't have even a support contract, they just have a customer service to resolve accounts related issue. They can use that channel to ask for FreeDTO as well?
Yes. So, and to be clear, so if you reach out to your account manager, all of that is still going to be funneled through the same process of discussing and interfacing with our customer support organization. So whether you're a small customer that doesn't necessarily have a direct point of contact within AWS, or you're a large customer that has enterprise support, both of those will be channeled through the same kind of intake process. So if you're a small customer, you can create a case with customer support, and we'll evaluate it similar to other larger enterprise customers.
And then it falls back to your team, and you decide case by case if it is a valid case, like the one we mentioned, migrating an entire workload for the boundary of an AWS account. I know I repeat, but to be sure that we are clear, and not some of these edge use case that we talk about, like disaster recovery or backup. So you evaluate that, and you grant authorization on a case by case basis.
Yes, yeah. Our team ultimately owns this program, so we're responsible for approvals. We work closely with the customer support organization, and we'll be involved and be working directly on cases as they arise. One thing I do want to point out too is that another comment for some of those smaller customers is, we currently have a 100 gigabyte per month free tier for data transfer out to the internet. So if you're a customer that kind of falls underneath that threshold, you can kind of move data freely without engaging with customer support or with AWS, and be able to kind of facilitate your migration through that free tier.
That's super important because few people know that there is a permanent free tier. So it's not only during the 12 months after you create the account, it's for the lifetime of the account of 100 gigabyte per month, which is not charged. Is it per account level or per billing organization level?
It's per billing organization.
Per billing organization. But for smaller customer, it's very likely they have only one or two accounts. So there is 100 gigabyte free per month. So if your database, your S3 objects, or whatever you want to take out of AWS is less than 100 gigabytes, you don't need to apply through this process. It's free by default. So it's only for customers willing to migrate more than 100 gigabyte. You decide what is the typical delay or SLA to provide an answer to our customers?
We try to provide answers to customers within like 15 days of their request. So we try to provide answers to their inquiries within a reasonable amount of time.
A few weeks, so 2 weeks roughly for that. And so customers have to apply before they start the migration, or can they start the migration and then apply? How does it work?
So it's difficult for us to kind of discern what traffic is moving through like a migration or moving off of AWS and other kind of normal, typical data transfer out to the internet. So it's important for customers to engage with us before they start to move data off of AWS. That way that we can evaluate the use case, make sure that it's in kind of compliance with the program, and then issue them a credit towards those transfers in the future. So it's much preferred and an easier process for us to process if the customer reaches out to us prior to moving.
So you said something important. It's a credit that we're going to apply to the bill. It's not like us. We stop counting during a period of time. We continue to count. You will see your bill, but we will recredit the same amount on the bill. So at the end, you're not paying. Does the customer have a time frame to perform the migration? Once you approved, are you going to say, okay, you have to transfer between that date and that date?
Yeah, so we will issue a credit, and that credit will be available to the customer for 60 days after approval. And we're, if a customer needs additional time, we're willing to consider that. But as kind of an initial approval, it'll be for 60 days.
And then what's next? So you approve. I have 60 days to move all my data to another cloud provider. And then what's next? Should I close the account afterwards?
You're not required to close the account. We expect that you remove all the data from the account. If not removing all the data, we recommend that you deactivate the account. But especially in cases where a customer may be migrating data from S3 and they still have some kind of commitment or agreement with other services, we want you to be able to kind of keep the account active for whatever other commitments you have with AWS and engagements. So
that's nice that we can keep the account, that customer can keep the account open. It means all the logs, for example, the CloudTrail logs. If the customer has some requirements in terms of compliance to keep evidence of access, this data can stay in the account. I receive a lot of questions as well from customers saying, hey, do we need to delete our database and delete our S3 accounts and everything? And yeah, the answer is yes. You can keep the account open, but you need to delete the data. But keeping the account open also allows for a return. If for whatever reason customer wants to come back to AWS for that specific workload, they can do it.
Yeah, of course. Like, as mentioned previously, like, believe we have, the best in class cloud services. Of course, we want customers to come back and continue to use our services in the future. So
not only it allows, it gives more choice and more freedom for customer. It's also a way for us to comply with some regulation. I know in Europe they have now the European Data Act that force or will force soon providers to give this type of freedom. That's a way for us to comply with this upcoming new regulation as well?
Yeah, the program in its form is, we believe, compliant with EU Data Act. Was not our only motivation here. We know that this is I think something that is a perspective broadly within the cloud industry of data transfer as a barrier, and we want to just make sure that we're kind of limiting that broad general perspective of data transfer services and make sure that customers don't feel as if that is a barrier.
Mm-hmm. Don't feel trapped or locked inside AWS. I have a hard question for you. How many customers have asked for it? So we launched this program like in January 2024, if I remember well. Is it something super popular? Is your team overwhelmed with the number of requests? I hope not, but...
No, I can't give an exact number, but we haven't seen many requests globally. So, and I think that's indicative of. I think this is more a way to reassure our customers that they can, kind of de-risks, moving off of AWS if they need to. But I think this demonstrates that there wasn't a lot of pent-up demand. Like, this isn't alleviating any pent-up demand of customers that were not moving their data off of AWS because of data transfer services. I think that's kind of what we've seen play out since we've launched this program.
That's interesting because in some countries in Europe, it was part of all the conversation. Yes, but if I adopt AWS, I will need to pay a lot of money to get out of AWS. And now that it's possible, the requests are not coming. So customers are staying on AWS. They are not using this program to leave, which probably proves as well that the rest of the service is up to their expectation. It also proves the point, as you mentioned, that it's a tick box in a list of a CIO to, okay, can I get out? Yes, I can. And it's checked. It's there. The program is there to answer that need, even if customer will not exercise it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the call to action? Typically, we finish a podcast episode saying, hey, go read more about it there or try it today. And in this case, we don't want to try it today. We want you to stay. I think I use the same type of call to action in the blog post saying, I hope you will not use this service or this program that we are talking about. It's the first time. That was a funny blog post to write because usually we want customer to try it and to give us feedback. And here I said, no, don't try it, but you just have to know it's there. Thank you, Camden. Do you want to add something before we finish?
No, just thank you for having me, Seb. I'd love to come back sometime and talk more about some of the awesome things that our global network and connectivity team is doing. So a lot of interesting things that we do to help connect all of our locations and help facilitate customer transfers. So love to come back.
Yeah, I would love to discuss a bit more how it works under the cover. I know that Mark Hamilton used to do a lot of talks at reInvent about the networking and the infrastructure inside the data center. Peter DeSantis is doing a bit as well, but more on the data center side, a bit less on the networking. So yes, if there are things that you can talk about publicly, because I know a lot of that is all secret source as well, and we don't communicate. But if there are subjects you can talk about publicly, yes, please come back. The door is open and you know where we are. Camden Forgy, you're Senior Product Manager for the networking team. We were talking about free data transfer, or that program that allows you to get reimbursement of your outgoing bandwidth cost if you decide to migrate one of your workload at the AWS account level outside of AWS. Thank you for having listened to this podcast. Camden, thank you for your very clear explanation. Next week, we are going to talk about something totally different. It will be GitOps, more in the DevOps type of conversation with one AWS hero from Germany, Johannes Koch, that will be there next week. Thank you for having listened to this episode until the end, and now go build.